Good morning. This is the BLAINESWORLD podcast that can be found each week on Facebook, YouTube, and LinkedIn. You can also listen in on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, and you can find out more information at our website and previous shows at www.blainesworld.net. I'm your host, Blaine Greenfield. I'm here in my lovely studio in downtown Fairview, North Carolina. And each week, we focus on positive news and information about people and organizations in both Western North Carolina and throughout the country. And toward that end, it's my pleasure to introduce Catherine Frank, Executive Director at Osher Life Learning Institute, UNCA, also known as OLLI. And Catherine, you can feel free to wave to all your fans and friends who are watching this. So that's Catherine Frank. And you're now not at your OLLI office, you're at home now?
No, I'm at my OLLI office.
Okay, well, late, you should get home sometime soon. Catherine Frank grew up in Winston-Salem, North Carolina, where she attended UNC School of Arts from 7th grade through the high school to study classical guitar. She holds 3 degrees in English from UNC Chapel Hill. She's executive director for Preservation Chapel Hill from 2000 to 2006, and for the Osher Life Learning Institute at Duke University from 2007 to May of 2010. She became director for the UNC Center for Creative Retirement, I remember that name at that time, and now the Osher Life Learning Institute. And Catherine, the question I ask all the time is, when you were growing up as a child, did you always know you wanted to be an executive director of a life learning institute?
I always tease that no one knows that. You don't go ballerina, fire ninja, firefighter, or OLLI director. You never do that. But I feel as if I've really found the right spot for me. I love learning. And so I am myself a lifelong learner. And as a graduate student in English, the thing you learn to do is to read and to write and to speak and to help others do that. And I think I really found my love of teaching and learning when I was in graduate school at Chapel Hill. And then I think I just lucked into the perfect job for me when my neighbor, who was on the curriculum committee at the Duke Institute for Learning in Retirement, said, "Would you like to come and teach?" And at first I wasn't quite sure. And then I just found it the most enticing kind of teaching, because I never have to grade anyone's paper. No one
Right.
ever asks me if this is going to be on the test. But we really have great dialogue with one another, and we learn how to disagree without being disagreeable. We I think make a really positive difference to people at a time in their lives when, the old saying is, you can't teach an old dog new tricks. Well, we disprove that every day here at OLLI and at lifelong learning programs across the country. So I feel very lucky, even though I didn't know I was looking for this when I was growing up.
Well, by the way, in introducing you, I also saw that you were a classical guitarist. What happened to that career? Or
I loved performing. I mean, I loved playing. I didn't love performing as much. And and I think it's a hard row to hoe to play classical music, and especially classical guitar. You can't join an orchestra or something like that. So it never seemed quite like a path to me, but I loved doing it. And I had so many opportunities at the School of the Arts to learn not only more about music, but to learn about the discipline that goes with all of the forms of the arts. And we got to see wonderful people. I got to see Maya Angelou talking about poetry and performance, and I got to play for Andres Segovia, who is probably one of the greats of the classical guitar development of classical guitar. I got to see wonderful dancers, Agnes DeMille, and wonderful actors like Rosemary Harris. So it was a really wonderful, wonderful opportunity that I'm glad. And it cost my parents very little as being part of the University of North Carolina system for me to be able to have all of those experiences. So I'm so glad.
Do you still play the guitar?
Not very much, no. That's my retirement dream, is to start practicing and playing again. But I loved doing it.
Well, one of the things that I think is kind of cool about you, Catherine, is that you also still now teach from time to time at OLLI. Is that correct?
It's correct. I teach
Yeah.
almost every term. And it's another way that I learned. They say the best way to learn is to teach. And so my specialty in graduate school was Victorian literature and specifically Thomas Hardy. But I've taught American literature. This fall, I'm going to teach a course on the novels of James Baldwin. And I've just really learned, I feel it's so important. I believe literature can be a connection that gives us a sense of understanding and empathy with people who are very different from ourselves. And so it gives me great energy to teach.
And
And
one
Ollie
thing
students are the best.
And one of the things that I admire you very frankly about is the fact that you do teach, because what a great way to keep you in touch with what's happening at school and the students. Because I remember one of the college presidents where I taught, and I gave him a lot of credit for doing so, because you really see what's happening out there, I guess, if you're teaching.
Yeah. You see the communications, you see the kind of support you get, and I am very lucky that I have a wonderful staff here. Christy McMillan is our program manager for our College for Seniors, and she does an amazing job of communicating with our instructors and really making them feel empowered to teach. So, but I get to see all of that from the teacher's perspective in addition to the administrator's perspective.
And for the benefit of the folks who don't know what Ollie is, and I should tell you, Catherine, especially when I first came on board, it's like this great secret I found about that I have great joy in telling other people about it, because when they come to the area, it's almost like the very first thing, it was the very first thing we checked into. What is Ollie all about?
So our program was founded in 1988 as the North Carolina Center for Creative Retirement. And the idea was kindled by our second chancellor here at UNC Asheville, Dave Brown, who is a current member along with his wife of our program now. And he recognized people were retiring to Western North Carolina because it's such a beautiful place. It's you can be outdoors and be active. It has such a rich culture. And he thought that having something like the North Carolina Center for Creative Retirement would be a great magnet for people to come. There were lifelong learning programs across the country. They really started in 1962 at the New School for Social Research in New York City. And they were part of the sort of uh, self-empowerment movement. So people said, we don't want someone telling us what to do. We want to be older adults figuring out how to learn and teach ourselves. And so they founded the Institute for Retired Professionals there, which is still a great program. And they recognized that what better place than New York City to find wonderful things to do, but they often felt marginalized as older adults in those places. And so I believe that Asheville is a place where at least as an older adult, you feel included almost everywhere because we do have a culture here that sees the value of bringing people together of all different ages and all different perspectives to create a community that is stronger when we're together.
The fact that you said it with the idea of the community, Catherine, because again, that was one of the very first things I uh, came to when I got off the boat, if you will, to West North Carolina, is somehow I found Ollie, and what a great way. We knew nobody,
Yeah.
and within that first semester, and we'll talk about one of the courses in particular I took, but within the first semester, I made so many contacts, I met so many different people. I wouldn't have had that opportunity had it not been for Ollie, so it's just.
Yeah, we've done surveys and we found about 60% of our members actually chose Asheville over lots of other places they could have retired because the North Carolina Center for Creative Retirement, now Ali at UNC Asheville, are here. But we also found it is a community. So it's not just a place you go and take a course and leave, which is what you might do at a lot of other places you can learn in Asheville, but you hang out. We have this great building that's dedicated to our youth, and that's a really wonderful asset. But what we find too is that people just keep conversations going. So if they're in a class on electric vehicles. You'll go out to the parking lot and you'll see someone else's electric vehicle. Or if you're in Tai Chi and you're just not getting the movements, you might practice together. You might come on a volunteer project that you want to pursue together. And so that's what we hear from people all the time, is at a time in life when they didn't necessarily anticipate making strong friendships, they make the strongest friendships of their lives. And it's because it's based on something more than just, oh, our kids go to the same school or we work in the same office, but it's this kind of idea that they've come together out of curiosity about a wide range of subjects. I think that really creates a compelling environment for community.
And as you mentioned that, it's kind of cool that I'm still in touch with some of my classmates. You know, this is like 15 years later, and I
Yeah.
still know them and friendly with them. And we should talk specifically about two courses that Ollie offers. One, I don't think I offered when I got here, but I think it's such a great course. It's what is it? One of the first ones they take an orientation to even before they move to Western North Carolina, right? There were a couple of programs you offer about, or you
We
used to
do.
offer. Yeah.
One thing that sets us apart is that we have these programs we call life transitions
Right.
programs.
Yeah.
And they started in the early 90s with a program called Creative Retirement Exploration Weekend. There was an article in the National newspaper insert Parade magazine, if people still remember that, which was all about the North Carolina Center for Creative Retirement. And people apparently were so intrigued by this idea, which talked about volunteer commitments, which talked about people teaching courses here, that they got 5,000 letters from across the country that said, hey, we want to either do that in our community, or hey, we want to move to Asheville. And so they created a program called Creative Retirement Exploration Weekend, which we still do, or which it's had a little hiatus during the pandemic, but we're bringing it back in 2024, where people come and go through all the issues of relocation in retirement. And we try to talk about relocation anywhere in the country and how to find these anchor places like a Center for Lifelong Learning, or other places, your church, or any of those communities where people connect. We have found some of our strongest volunteers in that. And what I always felt was, what I realized the first time I went through that program was, I think people come because they're worried. You know, who am I when I don't have a job? What am I going to do with all this time? And they walk into the building and they see people who are members here who are really enthusiastic about this place. And they immediately get this sense of relief. I think retirement is going to be a lot of fun. It's not something to worry about. It's a place where I can try new things. Of course, I think we have a couple of challenges, which is most of our members are people who've planned a long time for retirement, and it's not as easy if you haven't done that. But one thing we really try to do is make our programs available to anyone who wants to participate through scholarships and other things like that, so that you can at least connect with other curious people
And
here.
about that course, which was, I think, kind of cool when you think about it also, is the fact that a lot of people hadn't even committed to coming to West North Carolina, or you getting from all around the country. Is that correct?
Right. We usually have at least 19 states represented at that program, or 19 to 20 states. Yeah.
Have you ever done research about how many then stayed in West North Carolina?
It's a little hard to measure because they don't come right away sometimes. Sometimes they're 3 to 5 years out. But we hear anecdotally from people all the time who said, you know what, I was going to do this 2 years from now or 4 years I'm doing it now. And they've moved here almost immediately because they feel that they found their spot. And I know people, Asheville feels really crowded now for some people, but I do think we bring people who are really committed to investing in this community, not to changing it, but to investing in it.
And remember, I was not sad, but I had missed it. I guess I already moved to West North Carolina. But then I think within a year, I got into the one other program offered through Ollie, Catherine, which I think I tell everyone in the world about. and that's Leadership Asheville Seniors. And
Yes.
talk a little bit about that, if you would.
That's actually our oldest program here at at our institute. It was founded in 1987, and it started because Leadership Asheville, which is the civic engagement program usually for mid-career professionals, was housed here at the university. And apparently a group of older adults went to the office where it was housed, and they said, we want to know how Asheville works. We want to know how we can make a positive difference in the community, but we don't want to take a whole year. We don't want to spend thousands of dollars, and we don't want to do projects because that feels like
Right.
work.
Yeah.
So they developed this 9-week program, which has been going continuously since 1980. It has been going throughout has been continuing since 1987. It's a 9-week program every fall. We're full this fall for the first time in a little while, so we're really excited about that. And people get to go out, and there are 9 days based on different subjects. So we have an education day, an economics day, a social justice day, a food day. And we really meet the people who are making a positive difference in our community. And so, on government day, the mayor, the county commissioners oftentimes will come. The fire chiefs and the chief of police, the sheriff will often come, and people begin to see how the city works. And it's different in many ways from places people have come, but they recognize how many wonderful people are working to solve real challenges that we have. And we oftentimes say it's kind of like a lot of people come to Asheville because they saw the great tourist ads, and when they come for Leadership Asheville Seniors, they kind of take the rose-colored glasses off. But I think they find something richer and more positive because there are so many people in our community working for positive change. So, and our members find wonderful volunteer opportunities that they never would have known about. One of our members went on to be part of the board for Food Connection, which makes use of food that might otherwise go to waste. We have members who work with Habitat for Humanity. We have members who are on different boards and commissions for the county and the city because they learned about it at Leadership Asheville Seniors. And we are just really excited to have a full class for the first time in a little while. We were back to full in person last year, and I think that's we have so many people who say that was the program that really led them to great friendships, because people get to spend 1 day a week for 8 hours a day. We have lunch, they get to meet lots of important people, but I would say more like significant people who really are making change in our community.
How many people are in the class?
35.
Okay. And
And so
again,
it's a
yeah,
smallish group,
yeah.
so that's another reason you get to meet people.
But encourage folks. It's too bad they won't be able to get into it this coming year. But if you want a great program, that's it. And Catherine, I don't know, I'm sure some other people have done it, but I was so impressed with it. I then took the regular Leadership Asheville program afterward, because I made so many contacts, met so many people, found out about so many different things in Asheville that I want to know more,
Yeah.
And talk a little bit about that, Catherine, too, that to your credit, or the organization's credit, that one of the things that I learned, Asheville Seniors and Leadership Asheville as well, is that you encourage folks to get involved in the community,
We do.
and talk a little bit about that. I forgot the expression I heard years ago, but it's something to the fact that not what you can get from Asheville, what we can give, expression I'm talking about,
Yes.
or what's the
Yeah.
expression?
It's not what you can give. Well, John F. Kennedy said it's not what your country can do for you, but what you can do for your country. And I think in some ways that, the generation of people currently here are those people inspired in many ways by a lot of those movements in the 60s. But yes, we have, in addition to Leadership Asheville Seniors, where people can be connected to lots of great things going on in the community, we actually have what we call a civic engagement committee, where people go out and as a team of OLLI members, they volunteer at Manna Food Bank, doing both all kinds of work just packing backpacks of food or sorting bulk food, or they work for the helpline, the MANA helpline, to help people sign up for supplemental food, the SNAP program and things like that. And then we have people who work with Habitat for Humanity Energy Savers Network. We have people who work with the United Way's Homework Diners, all of those great things. Kathy Gainey is our chair for that committee. And people make friendships with one another. I think one of the ones that people love the most is Asheville Terrace Apartments, where they go and help people. They sort the food, they package it up for people who can't come down or can't make their way to other food pantries. And they really have connected with the people who live there, many of whom are older adults too. So, and they really worked. They didn't tell the people who lived there how to do this. OLLI members listened and worked with everyone, the MANA Food Bank, with the residents of the apartment, to make something that worked for everyone. And I think it's been one of those really great, meaningful connections for people. Our members are really active in the alumni organization for both Leadership Asheville and Leadership Asheville Seniors, Leadership Asheville Forum, and they just had a program here the other night on the opioid crisis. And so this continuing learning and continuing understanding of what makes our community work is part of what they want to be involved in. And sometimes they, are donors to these things, but a lot of people really want to roll up their sleeves. We have a team that goes to the Veterans Restoration Quarters and helps prepare meals, and just really offering ways for people to have a sense of purpose at this point in their lives, which is something people are really hungry for, I think.
And even in terms of the sense of purpose, it reminds me a little bit of my experience that, again, when I came to Asheville, I wanted to get involved. And actually, I got involved right away with OLLI, that somebody asked me or to be on the marketing committee.
Yeah.
And that had been my background. And I did that. I don't know if I feel bad, but I guess some people have this experience that I was very active in OLLI for several years. And then I won't say graduated, but I started, unfortunately, because you mentioned all these other opportunities out there, I found there are other opportunities for people to do stuff.
Exactly. And that's actually the primary reason people leave. It's not because they don't like what we do, it's because they get connected to other things.
Yeah.
And so we always hope that people will come back. If they're not active participants, that they're ambassadors for our programs. We really want more people to experience and add to our awareness of our community, in a way that gives them a sense of purpose and fulfillment. We always talk about being member driven and member led, and that's really the truth. Our members volunteer to teach our courses, our members design our curriculum, our members create those volunteer opportunities. And so it's a great sort. It is a community. I mean, that's just the only word for it, I think, in many ways.
And what's interesting, I think, Catherine, for folks, and I'd like you to talk about this as well, is in terms of the courses that you teach. And I think, correct me if I'm wrong, but I kind of break them into two different kinds of courses. That one, there are people who have a lot of background in a field, and never taught it officially, but had a lot of background. But then there are other courses, which I think are equally interesting, that people have no background in the field, but they learn about it by teaching the course.
Yeah, or they're really passionate about it.
Right.
I think Margaret Davis is one of our wonderful instructors, and I was just looking at the courses that are really popular. She's taught courses on Bob Dylan and Joan Baez and Bruce Springsteen. She's now teaching a course is called Medley of North Carolina Musicians. And so this term, she's including the Carolina Chocolate Drops and Roberta Flack and Randy Travis, and really understanding what a rich musical heritage North Carolina has. But I don't believe she has formal training in that, but
Point,
her
right.
courses are beautifully put together. I mean, they're very professionally done. And Margaret was one of our first pioneers for online learning. She taught the very first term we did that. She'd been sort of trying to drag us into that for a long time before the pandemic. She's one of those people. We also have, another one of our really well-known, well-liked instructors is Jim Limburg, and he has taught history, taught at Mars Hill University for decades, and he's one of our most important, well-liked instructors on history courses. And so he and I have taught a couple courses together, which are great fun. We just did one on the home front during World War II, and we hope to perhaps do one this spring on the 1920s. And so he does history and I do a little bit of literature. And it's been a great opportunity to learn and learn together.
And same thing too, we'll give a shout out to two of my friends who are active with you, with Ali, and that's of course Chuck Fink, was an amazing kind of guy. And Chuck just has flourished, in terms of he's become this storytelling guru. And mention a little bit what he does.
He's been teaching for us storytelling for quite a while, and he's very well connected in the storytelling community in Western North Carolina. He's been working a lot recently at the Weaverville Center for
Sure.
Creative and Healthy Living, but he continues to teach for us. He's done some courses on comedy, on Buster Keaton and that sort of thing. And so I think Chuck has always been a storyteller, but I think the traditions of Western North Carolina inspired him to think about it in a little bit different way. And he's done that. And of course, although the men's wisdom works are sort of separate but connected to us now, he started those groups for men where it was an opportunity for men who some people think don't talk about the things that are important to them to get together and become small groups that really share important ideas. And so Chuck was the founder of those groups as well.
I'll give a shout out to another of my friends who taught, I thought one of my favorite courses, Ali, was Randy Robbins.
Yes, Randy.
Yeah, mention him a little
terrific. Well, Randy, I believe was a teacher.
Right, he was.
But he has done stand-up comedy himself for a long time. So he is teaching a course in performing stand-up comedy, which has a show at the end every year. So we have our show already scheduled for November, where people who never thought they were comedians or maybe thought they were funny really learn how hard it is to be a stand-up comic. Jim, who I mentioned had been a professor for 30 years, said taking Randy's course was the hardest course he had ever taken. But Randy also teaches courses on comedy and film. So he's doing a course this fall on Sid Caesar and his comedy. He's taught Mel Brooks. He's taught a wide range of courses on comedy in film and television as well. And I think people love those because the world, we need a few more opportunities to laugh in the world we live in.
And you should mention the other thing that I love about Ali, and several courses are sort of film based. And help me with the name, Larry.
Larry Griswold
is still teaching there.
Yes, he is. He teaches courses on sports history. He worked for years at Sports Illustrated, and because of those great connections, he does courses on sports documentaries. And so he's been able, that was one thing the pandemic kind of gave us, was that this Ross Greenberg, who's this wonderful documentary filmmaker, has been able to come to the class on Zoom.
Wow.
And so they would watch the documentaries on a wide range of sports topics. But Larry is also teaching a course on the Battle of the Bulge this term, when so many owed so much to so few, I think is the title of that course. And Larry is such a dedicated, accomplished instructor who puts his heart and soul into making opportunities for people to learn. And he has a great following.
Yeah, and I'm telling you, I took every course he ever taught. They were so great.
Yeah.
And just segue into a couple of final topics about courses. So I mentioned a bunch of them. What would you say is one of the most unusual courses, or several of the unusual courses you've had there?
Well, I think it tells you something about Ali to know that the courses that have had the most requests this term are a course on medieval architecture taught by James Williamson, who is a wonderful architect himself. He's been teaching for us for just a couple years now. And we have a course on the history of rock and roll taught by Elliot Kahn,
Yeah,
who
I'm sorry I
is
missed that,
one of the
right?
founding members of the Shana Na, if you
Yeah.
remember that group. And so that says something. We have courses on orchestral music, we have courses on opera, but we also have courses on exercise. So strength training is a course. We have Linda Orowitz, who teaches walking downtown Asheville's architecture, but this term she's doing one on walking the River Arts District. We have courses on we have a course in beginning Latin that 22 people have requested, which I just think is wonderful and amazing. Rich Weiner is one of our longtime instructors teaching a course on the geology of North Carolina. We have courses on guitar basics, seniors in cinema. We also had an amazing sign up for humor and satire and Mark Twain short stories. We have a wonderful new instructor, John Mercer, who has, people just loved the first couple courses he taught on American literature. And of course, combination of a great instructor and Mark Twain is, that's just going to be a winner every time. So we have courses on such a wide range of things, and they're taught by our members who are volunteers. So it suggests the wide range of people who are here in Western North Carolina, who come here and just want to share their knowledge. And the other course that's really popular is that we have an instructor, Bill LaRock, who was himself a cartoonist. And throughout the pandemic, every week he created a cartoon for our newsletter. And it was just this wonderful kind of, again, shared experience. We all got through this together. And Bill has a course called Everyone Can Draw. And everybody wants to take it. Bill is himself funny, but I think what's interesting is he really works to create experiences where everyone comes out feeling they can draw in the end. So, what I love is the mix. We have courses for people who want to do serious work that's probably at a level that you would find in any college or university on subjects like philosophy and religion and literature. And we have courses on knitting and strength training and drawing that also exercise your mind, are done by people who really care about teaching well. We have this great mix of people doing all of it. And what I always like to say is, the person who's at the front teaching this course on Mark Twain might be sitting next to you in the next class trying to draw something, that they've never done before. And I think that's a great environment to learn in.
And Catherine, two final questions. So we're talking about Osher Life Learning Institute. If folks want to find out more, what's the best bet?
Our website is really the place to start. It's a little bit full because it's got everything in it, but our website is OLLIASHEVILLE, so ollieasheville.unca.edu, and you can find out everything there. We also do new member welcomes, which anyone is welcome to attend. You don't have to be a member, and those take place on the Friday before our classes start every term. So this year, that's going to be September, I think, let me just make sure I have it correctly. It's September 15th at 10 a.m. here at the Reuters Center. I also want us, and you can always just call us. Our number is 828-251-6140. We have a wide range of programs that are free and open to everyone with our community partners. So the Astronomy Club of Asheville, the Blue Ridge Naturalist Network, Blue Ridge Audubon, the Sierra Club, all meet here monthly and provide programs that are really, really first-rate programs on such a wide variety of subjects. A lot of the people who attend are OLLI members, but everyone is free to attend.
And if folks want to eventually teach a course, I guess the first thing I'd recommend is they take a course or see what it's about.
Yes.
But to teach a course, what's that process?
We have a course proposal form, which is online. We have programs called You Too Can Teach if you just want to find out how to fill out the form. We have curriculum committees in each of the areas. And then Christy McMillan is our wonderful College for Seniors program manager. And if you call us at our main number, ask to speak to her, and she can talk to you about how to teach. Really, it is a course description, listing your objectives, outlining what you might do in the course of 6 or 8 weeks. And then we try to work with you to make it work as well as we can. And, our goal is to serve the people who teach in addition to serve the people who take their courses.
And one of the great things that you mentioned already is that even if you never taught before, and I assume a lot of people have never taught before, they teach for you for the first time.
I would say most of them have some experience sort of being in front of people. It may not be a teaching in a formal setting, but they they have some level of comfort and connection with other people, and I think that's as important as anything. Your enthusiasm and knowledge, people really want you to succeed when you come here, and so we think all of that makes for great teachers and learners.
And Catherine, I want to thank you for all you've done for Ollie since you've been on board, and always a pleasure to speak to you, and hopefully we'll bump into each other sometime in the near future.
Same here.
Okay, I'm going to wrap this up, and if you would just stay with me as soon as I sign off. Okay, great. Sure. So our guest, this podcast has been Catherine Frank with Osher Life Learning Institute in Asheville, and I also like to thank my producer, Cappy Tassetti, and hopefully we'll see you on our show real soon. Thanks.